Hello and welcome to another episode of our NAWBO Member LinkedIn Love Live and the Texas Women Mean Business podcast. I'm very, very pumped to have Mindy East, CEO and founder of Lime Rock Consulting, joining us today. Hi, Mindy. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. I'm so glad to be back on this. I was on it like a long time ago when it first started, so I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you have so much to talk to us about. We're going to get into some of the fun things that you have going on for NAWBO and our programming and some really cool events. This is the busy, busy season for events for NAWBO. So we will get to that. Stay tuned if you are curious about how to connect with NAWBO. But first of all, if people have not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, tell us a little bit more about you and Lime Rock Consulting.
Sure. I have been a business owner for almost 5 years. I resigned from my corporate position 5 years ago this week and started my business 3 weeks after that. I know it feels like a good anniversary to be celebrating. To be honest, I was like, oh, I love this anniversary. This is a great milestone.
Yes.
So I resigned from my business and within 2 weeks had gotten my LLC and started my business because I was like, I know I have always wanted to start a business. If I don't do it now, when am I going to do it?
Totally.
And I was 51 at the time. So I was like, this time, girl, it's time. So my business has just a few different focuses. I am by trade a human resources consultant that has worked for some great companies like Gap and McDonald's and global nonprofits. And I also am a speaker and a trainer. And so I do a lot of public speaking and corporate training.
Awesome. Very cool. So what would you say the biggest surprise was to you in switching from the corporate world to owning your own business? Was there a misconception that you had that you thought this will be easy and then it wasn't? Or was it, I think it'll be hard and it actually was easy? Talk to me about that.
I would say it was harder than I thought it would be. But I would also, I'm going to keep going with that, but I'm going to tell you how NAWBO helped because, I was one of those people who joined NAWBO like right away when I started my business. So it was harder than I thought it was going to be for a variety of things. I had the expertise. Like there was no question that I had almost 28 years of HR experience at this point. I could do the work, but translating that work into a profitable business is a whole nother skill set. It's a whole nother skill set, right? And even though I know business, I was raised in McDonald's and I know operations and the profit and loss statement, and I have a marketing degree and all those things. It was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah. And as you and I even said before we started, it has evolved a lot over the 5 years too. Because it's so much trial and error. And, I think early in my business, I was like viewing those as more failures. And now I'm like, you got to try it to know what sticks, right? You just got to try and see what happens. But to add the NAWBO piece, so it's really interesting. When I knew I wanted to start my business, I had seen somebody on the NAWBO LinkedIn page that was connected to someone I knew on LinkedIn. That was it. I just was like, okay, I see her. She's connected to my friend Lisa. I'm going to reach out to her and I'm going to ask her about starting a business because it's the National Association for Women's Business Owners, right? And she was so great. Her name is Dana Reeder. Dana, I emailed her and I said, listen, I'm in San Antonio too. I see that you're part of this organization that talks about being business owners. So I think you might be somebody who could help me. I just can I just talk to you for 15 minutes? And Akila, she picked up the phone right then and called me. And the funny thing is, I didn't know this at the time, but I was driving. So I pulled over in the Alamo Cafe parking lot to take the call. And now I know that the owner of Alamo Cafe is also in NAWBO. How funny is that?
Yeah.
But Dana said to me that day, she said, listen, Mindy, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is I was in everything when I started my business. I was in every association, every chamber of commerce, all of this when I started my business. But the number one organization that has helped me is NAWBO. So I just encourage you as you're starting to start with NAWBO and then add other things. Don't add other things and then finally come to NAWBO. And so I joined that day. I was like a month into my business and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And it has been the single best decision for me as an entrepreneur because
awesome.
not only have I learned through NAWBO, like I was in the startup program, then I led the startup program. I've been pretty involved in the chapter in those 5 years, but also I just needed to be surrounded by women who were doing what I was learning to do. And I still need to be surrounded by women who are learning what I'm doing, because, and then I need to give back to those who are still, starting their business. But
Figuring it out.
it has been the single best decision that I have made as an entrepreneur.
I love that. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel the same way. I think it has so many different facets to it that, feed into you as a business owner in, social, emotional, tactical business, like everything it kind of
Yes.
encompasses. So very
Yeah, I
cool.
think so too. I think so too.
Yeah. So, when you talk about that transition, from going in that corporate, I know I'm getting a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Oh,
I'm, not
yeah.
worried about that to all of a sudden I'm the one, running everything. How do you, or how did you become comfortable? Cause I think one of the things that a lot of women struggle with is, oh my gosh, I have to go out and sell myself. I have to be
Mm.
the one hunting
Mhm.
for that, next project, next
Yeah.
client, that, all of that falls on your shoulders. How did you approach that in the beginning and get yourself comfortable with that idea of, okay, it's me that I'm packaging up and going out
It
there and selling?
is. Yes, it's funny because I tell people often, like, hardly anybody knows the name of my business, but they know my
Yeah.
name. And
Yeah.
it's true. It's true, I
Yeah.
mean, and I could go on and on about why that is, but, you are the spotlight when you run a business. You are
Yeah.
selling your expertise in the beginning, and then as you get a team, you're selling the collective expertise, right?
Mhm.
So how did I do that? That's a really great question because I have always been a natural networker. Okay.
Mhm.
So from very young, I was trained to tell my story. I'm a long-term cancer survivor from childhood. And at
Mhm.
the age of 8, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at the same time, my doctor asked me to be the poster child for the American Cancer Society and the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh my gosh.
And so I learned when on the days that I felt good, right? Certainly my parents were like, sure, she can do that if she feels well enough. And
Mhm.
so, but what that taught me at such a young age is that telling my story and making sure I can say it in a way that people care is
Mhm.
so important. It's so
Mhm.
important. It was so important for the organizations that I was representing. And then as I grew in my career, I was like, gosh, that really helped me form who I am today. So actually a huge part of my business is teaching people how to network
Mhm.
because it's kind of a dirty word. People think ick, or I have to be everywhere or,
Yeah.
all the negative
Or I'm
stereotypes.
just shoving business cards in people's faces
Yes, oh my
and
gosh,
yeah.
all the
Yeah.
negative stereotypes about
Yeah.
networking, and this last about 5 months ago, I started something called Networking School, which is really for people to understand really at the core what is networking and how does that grow your business and,
Mhm.
in your career as well. But I will tell you, out of the 34 members we have, almost all of them are business owners. And so I think I
Awesome.
learned it because I've always been a networker, but what I didn't know is that you have to network different as a business owner. It's not
Mhm.
the same as, representing a company. You're
Yeah,
really representing your business in everything you do. And
totally.
so what I learned was I unpacked over, the first couple years of doing my own business, figuring out that the equation to grow my business, and I'll just say it, it's visibility
Mhm.
plus relationships equals growth,
Mm.
business growth. And we can
Yep.
have just relationships, but then if we're out of sight, out of mind, it doesn't work. We can have
Yeah.
just visibility, but if people have visibility without the connection to people, it's really hard
Mhm.
to grow your business. So
Mhm.
I've learned for me, the formula that works is a combination of visibility and strong relationships. And together, that is literally the way I grew my business.
Right.
And I'd love to
Yeah.
teach others to do the same.
Well, and you make a good point of when business owners network, there has to be a extreme intentionality, because if I'm a full-time sales rep, of course I can go to every single happy hour
Yeah.
mixer, networking, like that's my entire role and responsibility.
Yeah.
But as a business owner, if I'm going to choose to go to something, I better feel like I'm going to get something out of it. So how do
Yes.
you coach people on when to know what's worth your time? What do I invest in? How do I make those decisions?
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Also, from my HR days, I teach a lot about goal achievement. Like, how do you have a goal? But like, only 7% of people achieve their goals, right? And so, how do you achieve them? And networking is no different. You really need. I have like a 3-prong approach. The first thing is really to define your direction. Why are
Mhm.
you going to this event, or why are you spending time on LinkedIn or posting this? Like, what's your intention?
Mhm.
And I don't believe you should be everywhere. In fact, I don't
Mhm.
think that helps at all, because
Mhm.
having like more people to follow up with doesn't necessarily build genuine connections and relationships. And also,
Yep.
just getting really clear on define your direction is also just really getting really clear on how you introduce yourself. And I
Mm.
actually believe the elevator pitch is dead. I don't think anyone wants to be pitched to. And honestly, I think very few people actually want to pitch. But if
Mhm.
we can like really get comfortable on how we introduce ourselves in a memorable way, that is the key. That
Mm.
you can almost do nothing else if you don't have that ability. I call that
Yeah.
your known for statement. Like, what do you want to be known for? It's one sentence that you introduce
Mhm.
yourself. And then the next thing I would say is like really building your visibility. So that is a 2-prong approach. In today's world, you have to be on LinkedIn and you have to do in-person networking. So how I choose where to go, I think that's what you asked, and I want to get back to that. How
Yeah.
I choose where to go with networking is I actually say there are about 3 like tests you could put in your head. Like, are you going because your ideal connection is in the room? Not to
Mhm.
sell, but your ideal connection. Like, if I could meet more people who know my ideal connection, or who are my ideal connection, that is a very valuable use of your time.
Mhm.
Um, and most people choose by going where they're comfortable. They really
Mhm.
do. And
Yep.
if you go where you're comfortable, and you can do that if you need the community, right? If you're like a solo entrepreneur and you're like, man, I just need to be around my people, then
Mhm.
that is a reason to go. And that's a valid reason. And then the other reason is like, if the speaker is somebody that you really want to hear, right? And then you can
Right.
go. But if you're putting yourself in rooms where your ideal client is not there, and that is what you're calling networking, you're not going to get the results you want. And
Mhm.
so I know people feel like sometimes they just go where they're safe, right? Like,
Right.
and NAWBO could be an example of that. Like, if
Mhm.
I do get business from NAWBO, but if my
Mhm.
ideal client weren't there, I would be going for the community and the education, and I
Right.
would make sure I got myself to places where my ideal client was. And I actually
Mhm.
don't feel like you should fill your calendar. I really feel like 2 to 3 events a month is plenty if you're going
Yeah.
to the right events, and if you know how to follow up with people afterwards, also not in a
Right.
salesy way.
Right. Right. Well, and I think to your point about, do I go where I just feel comfortable? It's also really easy to show up to an event and immediately go to the people you recognize and just stay in a corner and, only
Totally.
talk to those 5 people the entire time. So, if I've
Mhm.
done the research and I know there's that ideal client that I want to be in that same room with, what advice do you have for approaching them in a way that feels natural, striking up a
Yeah.
conversation? Like that feels so intimidating to not do it, to your point, in a salesy way either.
Yeah, it really does. So I have a couple tips with that. I would also say, if you can, try to have a networking buddy that you go with, just
Mhm.
because you can then invite someone into your conversation, and that helps. But the other thing is, I don't always have that. And I, believe it or not, I like that too. Even as an expert networker, I like to have somebody with me. And one of my NAWBO friends, we often go together just to check out new things.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is great. I mean, she is my networking buddy, and we will check out things together. But
Mhm.
also, how do you feel comfortable? I really believe that starts with defining your direction, right? You have
Mhm.
to say, why am I going to this event? I always actually say, before you get out of your car, think about, why am I here? What do I hope to get out of it? And how am I going to introduce myself? Right. And so if
Mhm.
you already have that in your head versus like, I pull in, I'm in a rush, I get out, I go inside, and you're like, ick, this is not good. Like actually have intention about why you're going and how you're going to introduce yourself. But then I also love when people, are the most interested person in the room. Like the spotlight is not on you if you're a good networker. The spotlight is actually on the other person. So if you're introverted or if you're not comfortable networking, and honestly, I'm right on the line, man. I can definitely be on the introverted side.
Depends on the day. Yeah.
Yeah. I just try to have some questions that I would normally ask somebody. And that could be like, what brought you here today? Have you been at this event before? Have you seen this speaker before? Tell me about your business. And then you just continue to be really inquisitive because, and not like put someone on the spot, but and then you're not thinking, okay, this is on me. Everyone's looking at me. They know I've never been here before. They know I'm new. Just actually having a few questions in your back pocket that can like break the ice and know how you want to introduce yourself. I think that is one of the best strategies for going in and saying, how am I going to do this if I'm intimidated? And I want to add one other thing. I also think your mindset is huge because even if you are an extreme introvert, and I know there are people in my program who are, get clear on, I am only doing this for 45 minutes. I can do this for 45 minutes. I don't have to be here for the whole 3 hours, or I don't have to be here and talk to everybody in the room. Like, what do I want out of this? And build up that tolerance because I can't pretend that I know how hard it is for people who are extreme introverts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a pretty great room to be able to walk into here in a couple months. We've got the summit for NAWBO coming up. So you may have been at some NAWBO events in the past. You may have been to our summit in the past, but this year is going to be a little different. And you are at the helm as our programming director. So tell us a little bit more about how that event is shifting and evolving this year.
Yes. So when I took over the director of programs role last summer, the summit was actually not part of my responsibility. And so we were like questioning, like, what do we want to do with the summit? And I had an idea, and I brought, as the director of programs, I said, what if I replaced the May monthly meeting with a summit, and we did it like at the same location, but we actually use the ticket money instead of to pay for a new big location. Let's use the ticket money to bring in a good speaker. Like not that we haven't had good speakers in the past, because we absolutely have, but bring in somebody who is new and fresh, and almost everybody in that room has never heard before. And so I went to the board, and they were like, absolutely, let's try it. Let's do something different. So it's just reimagined, right? And we've reimagined our summit other times too. So this is just, something you do every couple of years. So the summit in May, on May 6th, is going to be reimagined. We are all going to be in the same room the whole time. We've already sold over 50 tickets, and which is great for this time. We've already sold, I think it's like 55 tickets. It's good. And we are having a keynote speaker from North Carolina come in. Her name is Jess Ekstrom. And Jess is actually someone who has mentored and trained me to be a speaker. And after really getting to know her both in person and online, I was like, her message is exactly what we need. So let me tell you quickly about her. So Jess has founded 2 multi-million-dollar companies, and I think she's 34. I mean, like, she's really done great things. She started her first business in her dorm room, and it was called Headbands for Hope, because she believed, after she volunteered for Make-A-Wish Foundation, she believed that the cancer patients needed headbands to make them feel pretty. And that's how she started her business. She volunteered for Make-A-Wish. She saw a need. She started her business and grew that to a multi-million-dollar business and sold it in 2021. And one of the things she realized she loved so much in that business. So I could go on and on about Headbands for Hope. But you can read about it on the website. So I'll make sure I add it in the show notes, but because it's still doing amazing work globally. But what she realized about when she sold her business, what she loved about it was the speaking. And the truth of the matter is only 30%, and sometimes even like it toggles between like 31% and 27% of speakers at events globally are women.
Oh my gosh.
It's so low. And then you add diverse women and it's even less.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So we have just now you can see it. Now you can't kind of unsee it when you see an event posted and you're like, white male, white male, white male.
Yep.
And it's like, where's the women? And so Jess said, what I loved about owning my business was getting out to speak about it and to tell the story. And so she founded Mic Drop Workshop, which is for women to learn how to speak and how to get on stages if that's their choice, right? We all need to learn how to be more confident speakers, even if it's not on a stage, right? So that is her passion, and she has built that into a global business. And she is also releasing a new book in May. So everyone who comes to the summit will get to hear Jess speak on making it without losing it. Is the topic. Yes, we all need to make it without losing it. And we're all getting a book. And her book releases the day before. So like,
oh my gosh, how exciting.
Yes, her book releases on May 5th. And on May 6th, when you walk into the summit, you are going to get a copy. Wow. Which we feel really excited about. So that she is the headliner for the event. But we have 2 other things happening at this summit that are going to be great. The first one, I say it's going to be great, but I don't want to brag. It's me. I'm actually teaching one of Jess's programs. So this is what I'm leading is going to be called Speak So It Sticks. So how do you speak with confidence, and how do you speak in a way, whether you're in a PTA meeting or a Bible study or you are on a stage, it doesn't matter. We as women tend to shy away from using our voice. And so mine is more of a workshop. People will get handouts. We'll talk at tables, and we're going to really learn how to speak so it sticks. And I guarantee you're going to leave there with it doesn't matter who you are, how long you've spoken, you're going to leave there inspired. And then over lunch or brunch, we are going to have Dr. Christine Sickles, who is Jess's CEO of her company. And she also has an amazing background in marketing and leadership. She owns her own company called C-Suite, where she has a staff of fractional women only CEO or chief marketing officers that do fractional work in companies. So she is coming, and we're going to interview her over lunch. And I think you're going to interview her because
again. Look at
that. I know, because what came into my head was, first of all, Christine is amazing. I've learned so much from her because she's very involved in the programs, and she helps us market ourselves as speakers. She teaches us and guides us and gives us feedback. But she's coming out with her own book in the fall about what it really takes to speak and be heard in corporate. And so we just have some really great headliners. Christine is coming in from Atlanta. Jess is coming in from Raleigh. And so we're going to have less speakers. We're all going to be together, which I think alone is going to be so energizing, right? So I guess what I want to convey about the event is it's for anyone. You don't have to be a business owner. So I often tell people, like, if your daughter's home from college, bring her. If your high school student wants to take a day, this is for women of any way. And so we don't think of the summit as just for business owners. It is an outreach. We want you to come if you are an employee, or if you are a business owner, or if you are simply a woman who doesn't even work, who just wants to be there with us that day. So I believe it's going to be so motivating. You're going to be in community. You're going to be educated. And I think you're going to really be inspired when you leave to speak up in rooms that you may not have spoke up in before.
Right. Or even, I think in one-on-one conversations, we've all had those moments where it feels like, ooh, if I really speak up and say my piece right now, it might ruffle some feathers. It might, change the direction of this relationship. Like, there's always those moments, no matter who you are as a woman, that, you have a crossing, road. I can choose to use my voice, or I can choose to just kind of shrink and stay small. So I love that you're giving women that, strategic kind of advice on how to do that.
Yeah, and the theme is called it's the NAWBO Women's Leadership Summit, but our theme this year is Turn Up the Volume. And I really just love how it's all coming together. So the food's going to be great. We're going to be at Magnolia Hall on May 6th, and it is from 9 to 1. So would love for women to sign up, and we'll make sure we give all the information in the show notes. And actually, you know what? You can click on the QR code on the screen up here too.
True. That's true.
It says upcoming events, and just scroll on down to May and get your ticket today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a pre-summit happy hour on Cinco de Mayo, correct?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, it's Cinco de Mayo the day before. And as I mentioned earlier, one of our business owners in NAWBO is the owner of her family owns, and she is the head of Alamo Cafe. And so we are having a Cinco de Mayo party at her restaurant. Right?
Absolutely.
And it's going to be like indoor, outdoor, happy hour from 4 to 6. And that is a separate ticket. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to go to the summit, but I can't go to the happy hour, or I want to go to the happy hour, but I can't go to the summit, you can buy a separate ticket.
Choose your own adventure. Absolutely.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
I love that.
What else, Mindy, in terms of programming? I know we've only got a couple minutes left here, and you are constantly doing so much for our chapter. So first of all, thank you for all that you do in that role as programming. But is there anything else that you want to share with us that people should know about?
You know, we do have amazing monthly events, but the one I want to showcase is our monthly brunch and learn. And so as I mentioned, I really love also educating. It's kind of how I'm wired. And we used to have something called Lunch Connections in NAWBO, and it was fantastic, but the attendance was going down, and we were like, let's reimagine it. So I reimagined it this year, and we call it Brunch and Learn, because who doesn't like to come to brunch, right?
Yeah.
And so we start with this great meal together, a warm, hot meal together. And there's usually about 25 or 30 women in the room. And then we learn. And so what I want people to know is it's not like you're just going to sit there and hear a speaker. People have their laptops out, they're taking notes, they've got their notebooks out, they're writing the whole time, we're asking questions. It is a really interactive learning experience. And our brunch and learns have become, we just started it in August, and they're just becoming a place where some people come every single month. We attract more new members than, I mean, like the percentage of new members who are coming to Brunch and Learn is huge. A third every single time are people I've never seen. And I go to almost everything in NAWBO. A third every single month are members, because it's members only, that I've never seen before. And I love that. And then the other ones are like people who are like, I really need this topic. I'm going to come. That particular topic. If people are looking for education at a very low price, I mean, you get your hot brunch, the community and the networking and the education for $25. And it's a 2-hour event, and we meet the same place every time. But I just want people to know that if education, networking, and community is what you're looking for in a smaller setting, those brunch and learns are really great. And our one that's next week, I just feel like it's going to be amazing. It's all about being confident with what you charge and what you're asking for as a business owner, right? So we're doing that for Women's Month, and we have 2 people coming who are just like crazy experts. One, I call her like the intellectual expert. She helps you figure out in your company what to charge, and so she's like the strategy, the math. And we have a therapist coming to help us understand why we as women might feel uncomfortable charging. And so we've got that like feeling approach to it, which even when we prepped this, Akila, even when we were just designing this, I left with a nugget from what she said that is changing my mindset about money. And
it's so emotional. Money is emotional.
It is so emotional. And I was like, oh, that's why I feel uncomfortable. And I say my price with a question mark on the end. And so she's coming, and then we have another lady who's coming, and she's like the expert on the, like, what do you need to charge, and how do you do that to make a profitable business? So that
very
is
cool.
Next week.
Well, every event I think with NAWBO, under your leadership with programming has been so high impact, warm,
Thank you.
inviting, friendly, time to get to know each other, but also I'm going to walk away with something that I can apply to my business. So I think that's
Thank
just a
you.
phenomenal combination. And kudos to you for working so hard on that. But
Thank you. And you and
um,
I get to work together on it next year when you're
I know,
president.
I'm so
So
excited, so
I
excited. You
know it's
guys,
gonna be
you
a great
can't even
year.
imagine all the fun plans we have in the works already. So
I
get
can't
excited,
wait.
y'all.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear more. I can't wait to hear more. Well, thank you for having
Mhm.
me. I really
Yes.
appreciate it. I love
Yeah.
talking about my business, and I also really love talking about NAWBO.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mindy. If you guys are watching, you can scan that QR code up above to be able to find out more about NAWBO, register for the summit, check out that speaker and all of the fun stuff we have going on that day, or any other events between now and then. We've also got our gala. We've got all
Yeah.
kinds of crazy stuff in the spring.
Yes.
So by all
Yes, we
means,
really do. We
would
really
love to
do.
see you there. And then if you are listening on the podcast, we will put all this information in the show notes as well. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Akila.